Take a look. Yeah, I've heard some positive stuff about the PvE in Warlords.
If you're at all familiar with World of Warcraft, you've probably heard about the Warlords of Draenor expansion.
Yeah.
And what you've heard about it is likely not very glowing, but oftentimes the criticisms are summed up to Draenor bad. It's like Nickelback. It's been a meme for so long that people have forgotten why they even hate it so much. So in this video, we'll take a comprehensive look at the expansion in a constructive manner and explain exactly why it's earned the reputation that it has today. This is why the Warlords of Draenor expansion was bad.
I like that mindset though. It's like, it's not just calling it bad because it's bad. It's like, well, why is it bad? So let's not make the same mistake. Huh?
The year is 2013, and World of Warcraft is coming off of its 4th expansion, The Mists of Pandaria. While wildly different than the rest of the game, it's an expansion that today many look back to quite fondly. Although at this point, many would say that World of Warcraft was past its prime, it was still clearly dominant within the MMORPG genre. And while the Cataclysm expansion may have been their first sign of weakness, there had yet to be an expansion that was unilaterally believed to be bad, so coming off of the Mists of Pandaria, expectations were still quite high at this point, and on November 8th, 2013, the announcement was made. The next expansion was the Warlords of Draenor.
We call it Warlords of Draenor!
Draenor? Isn't it Draenor? I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
Players were to adventure into the Outland of the past. In fact, a time before it was known as the Outland, but instead Draenor, the home of the orcs, before it was corrupted by the Burning Legion. The antagonist of the Mists of Pandaria expansion, Garrosh Hellscream, with the help of a rogue agent of the time-traveling Bronze Dragonflight, traveled back to the pivotal moment where the leader of the Iron Horde, Grommash Hellscream, accepted Gul'dan's new flavor of Mountain Dew, which would corrupt he and his race into those red spiky orcs that...
Do you guys remember the WoW Mountain Dew back in the day in like TBC? What was that? You got it from like Walmart or something? There was like a World of Warcraft flavored Mountain Dew. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And dude, my friend, was it Game Fuel? Was that what it's called? Game Fuel. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Dude, my friends and I, we would LAN up hard. It was like Friday after school. We'd all like bring our laptops and Xbox 360s, and we would just buy cases of this Game Fuel, Mountain Dew, World of Warcraft, whatever it was. Dude, I just remember cracking those open, gaming. Oh, bro, some good days, man. Like we were just, it was Friday night. We had a whole weekend in front of us. You're a kid with zero responsibilities. You crack open ice cold Game Fuel. And you have World of Warcraft in front of you. You're flying around the Outlands. You're making gold. You're playing arenas. You're getting new loot. Hitting the raids. It's just like, oh man, some good times. Good times.
Most players first encountered in the Outland that they knew from the Burning Crusade, but this time they would carve their own path. The various orc clans would be united together under Grommash's leadership, such as the Shadow Moon, led by Ner'zhul, the Shattered Hand, led by Kargath, as well as the Warsong, Black Hand, Laughing Skull, and more. Together, they would prepare to lead a campaign across Azeroth through the recently awakened Dark Portal. The stage was set. After taking a completely unexpected turn into Pandaland, the game had become unrecognizable to the Warcraft fanbase. What was once orcs, axes, and heavy metal was now a cute and cuddly mystical adventure, representing something more from Pixar than it did Warcraft. The Burning Crusade was, and still is considered by many today to be the prime of the game, so many thought of this upcoming Draenor expansion as its spiritual successor, and a return to form to a comfortable moment within the game's history. However, little did they know, the Burning Crusade was a long time ago, and Blizzard was no longer the developer that they had fallen in love with.
And I want to talk about ice cream.
This famous
ice cream
clip
is great. Ice cream is one of my favorite desserts. Personally, I love chocolate and I love cookies and cream. Cookies and cream is actually my all-time favorite dessert. But I understand that for some of you,
Chills.
your favorite flavor
Chills.
is vanilla.
Bro, I've watched this clip like 20 times. I was there in person. I get chills every time, man. I was there in person and like, dude, I was crying when this announcement was happening that I could relive my childhood game and play Classic again. And I'm looking around and everybody else is crying too. Like, it was the most insane moment to be there in person because everyone was just freaking out. Like, freaking out that it's actually happening. This was back when Nostalrius was going on, and then it got taken down, and then there was a petition, and then it got millions of signatures or maybe hundreds of thousands, and then everyone was like, we want this, and they said, no, you think you do, but you don't, and then they did this, and it was like, oh my gosh, you know? Whew.
Hype. It's a powerful force within the world of media. It's a special kind of excitement that can only be obtained through anticipation. You may have heard the quote before, the air is electric. A full capacity crowd waiting for an icon to make their entrance. It's a good old-fashioned dopamine bukkake. Details of the upcoming release are slowly rolled out. Discussion forums are buzzing with conversation and excitement. YouTubers are making their cringe clickbait thumbnails. And people are marking down their calendars and
Guys, be honest with me. Is this me? Like, be 100% honest. Be honest. Yes, yet. Don't be that honest, guys. Are you kidding me? Don't be that honest, guys. Come on.
thumbnails, and people are marking down their calendars and counting down the days left until release. Word spreads, pre-orders roll in, and the fan base waits in eager anticipation. Ironically enough, it's often this stage is where the product has reached its height in popularity. But as powerful and beneficial hype can be to an upcoming release, it also sets the stage for disappointment. It's inevitable. When expectations are soaring into the heavens, they'll eventually come down to earth. But the issue is that, for MMOs, it's taken to the extreme. And it makes sense if you think about it. You live in this virtual world, you build a virtual community, you make friends, meet enemies, and out of any genre of game, they demand the largest investment of time. To many, it's almost like a second life, a comfortable place to escape to. An escape that was marketed similarly to a time where the game had reached feverishly high levels of popularity. It was the good old days where the game was closer to the roots that made it popular to begin with, and at the same time, it had evolved past a lot of the awkwardness that the original vanilla version of the game held. It brought with it arena, heroic dungeons, a new class if you count the sharing of paladin and shaman, a new world to explore, and a wealth of memorable and challenging dungeons and raids. It was a revolutionary expansion, so much so that its reputation would carry over 6 years later with what many thought to be its spiritual successor, a game that would take them to the same place, both inside of it and, in a way,
the
outside as well.
days,
They slowly
man.
unveiled the major features that it held, including things that players would come to expect from an expansion. More levels of character progression, new areas.
Bro, the new character models still to this day, they're not new anymore. They're 10 years old now or more. Still to this day, the Warlords character model updates and the cast animation updates 10 years ago still makes me upset today. I liked how it was. I liked that rustic WoW feel. Like, it's like the art feeling like World of Warcraft, the animations, how they were, still to this day. And when it first came out, I was like, this sucks. And people said, Czar, you'll get used to it. It's a new thing, and anything new takes time to get used to. And I'm like, well, okay, you're right. A few months later, a few years later, it's been a decade. I still feel the same. I would love an option in WoW, a checkbox to get old character models and old cast animations back. It would help, and the old UI. If I could have one button in retail WoW that says old UI, old character models, old animations, and I played WoW like that, I swear it would actually just help me so much. Be like, okay, at least this is the WoW that I grew up on and I'm familiar with. Let's go. Like, oh.
Items, dungeons, raids, a new PvP zone called Ashran, new character models, and more, with the largest being garrisons, where the players would fill the role of commanders.
Someone in chat goes, make it a checkbox called old. Okay, that's pretty good.
Leading their own personal army of followers to defend Azeroth against the endless Iron Horde. It was fully customizable, with buildings that improved combat capabilities, crafting of any profession, even if you didn't have it, a personal herb garden, mines, an auction house if you had the right building, and a mission table to bring back currencies or even gear for both the player and their followers. It was marketed as the ultimate personal hub, and the players would want for nothing. And finally, as an extra incentive, those who pre-purchased the expansion would also receive a level 90 character boost, so they could jump right into it. Character boosts were a microtransaction that was first introduced in the tail end of the Mists of Pandaria expansion, and though they would be convenient for players to skip the leveling grind and be sped up to the new expansion's content, they would also be controversial, as they would be a major step towards being able to purchase progression with real-life money, a line that the developer had once promised that they would not cross. But as time went on, the hype only grew. And after years of slow decline, starting with the release of the Cataclysm expansion 3 years prior, players flocked back in record numbers. And on November 2014, the drums of war thundered once again.
For me, I agree with what Matthewson just said, and I think we're on the same page here, is I don't mind buying things that are cosmetic only. If Blizzard wants to put in a pet, if Blizzard wants to put in a mount, if they want to put in a cool cloak or a tabard, if it's cosmetic only, like it really, like, it doesn't bother me too much. If someone wants to spend their money on an in-game mount, and it doesn't affect me in any way, because I know where they got it, they bought it from the store. They know where they got it, they bought it from the store. It doesn't help them in any way. No utility, no character progression, no character power. I'm fine with that. Where I draw the line is if there's any type of in-game character progression. So level boost, gold is a big one, huge one, right? Buying gold, buying character boosts, and then with gold you can buy character power because you can buy arena boosts, mythic plus boost, or rating boost. So gold is essentially, you know, you can buy gold and beat the rest of the game with enough gold. So that's a problem, right? So to me, that's where I draw my line. I'm not saying that's like the only perspective or the only way to look at it, but I think Mad Season and I align there, where it's like, yeah, that's like a pretty good line, you know. But let's be honest, it's never going back, right?
As the Warlords of Draenor stormed onto the scene, it was an immediate hit, with 3.3 million copies flying off of the shelves in the first 24 hours. Subscriptions skyrocketed to 10.5 million, the highest since their initial decline, and smashing records for the biggest subscriber surge an expansion had ever seen. On paper, it was a triumph, a true return to glory for the World of Warcraft.
Oh, that's nice. Every fucking server that I even play on is offline. Oh, yeah. It looks like mine aren't the only ones.
Unfortunately, the triumph soon turned to turmoil. Launch day wasn't just a celebration, it was a battlefield. Blizzard servers got slammed by both the rush of players and also by a DDoS attack, a flood of fake traffic choking them into submission. A group known as the Lizard Squad had planned the attack for launch day to troll the subscriber base, making it mostly unplayable for hours.
Okay, fun Xaryu lore. All the servers were down, and I was streaming, and for some reason, my character, I was still online, and I think I had like 10,000 viewers for like one of the first times, and everyone was blaming me with the Lizard Squad DDoS. I don't remember why they were blaming me. Why were they blaming me? I can't even remember why. But everyone was in my chat from the forums basically saying it's your fault that the servers are down because Lizard Squad. I think Lizard Squad was like in my chat or something. I can't remember. It was 10 years ago. You guys, maybe some of you were in there. Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, everyone was mauling at me that the Lizard Squad was DDoSing Blizzard, and I was just sitting here scratching my head like, how are people mad at me for this? What is going on? I was like, what is happening? It was maybe because I was still online and everyone wasn't, and then they were saying, yeah, anyway, that was some weird day. That was a weird day.
And then days. Players could rarely log in, and when they did, they would be stuck in limbo.
Yeah, I think that was what it was, Bronson. Lizard Squad was in the chat, like, talking to me, and or something like that. So then it became my fault somehow.
As the servers struggled to keep up, law enforcement scrambled to track down the culprits. Frustration boiled over, and the hype train was quite violently derailed, leading to one of their messiest launches in a long time, which is kind of saying a lot for Blizzard releases. But that's one thing. A launch plagued with technical issues isn't necessarily unheard of within the MMO genre. What really matters is if it was actually worth the frustration, and unfortunately for many, it wasn't. Once the players finally did get in, what they found was an expansion that was half finished. Several of the previously advertised features were missing entirely, and through data mining, many more were discovered, such as a legendary questline, 2 major cities, new battlegrounds, and even a whole raid tier. And what's more, a feature that actually did make it into the game, and the largest that the expansion had staked its claim on, garrisons, also fell short. As advertised, it was a personal base. You could recruit followers, grow herbs, mine ore, craft gear, and even use the auction house. And the best part? All of it to yourself. As for the worst part, all of it was to yourself. As convenient as it was also a one-way ticket to isolation. World of Warcraft, the king of MMOs, a massively multiplayer role-playing game, started to feel for many like it was single player. And this is where the Warlords of Draenor truly suffered. Most multiplayer games, especially MMOs, live and die, not necessarily even on how popular they are, as much as how popular they appear to be. If a player walks into a sprawling hub or encounters fellow adventurers out in the wild, they get the impression that the game they're playing is popular. And
yeah, I completely agree. That's one of the things I like about Season of Discovery. The Season of Discovery numbers, there's like 70,000 people rating per week. So that's not crazy. It's not terrible, but it's not like crazy poppin'. But anytime I log into Season of Discovery, whether it's 4 a.m., okay, well, I don't log at 4 a.m. I don't know why I said 4 a.m. Whether it's 7 a.m., 10 a.m., the city always looks like this. And regardless of the actual player count, of how many people, whatever, I can see other people. I can find groups and talk and interact with other people. The world feels alive. That is such a big deal. On retail, I know the numbers are higher. Like, there's more people playing retail, hands down. It's very clear. But when you log in, the world just feels empty and dead. And that's a big deal. Like, you don't want to like overlook that at all. This is massive stuff here when it comes to like the psychological effect of like logging into an online universe. It's like, yeah, you want to have people on cool, unique mounts and just hanging out in the city and like looking for groups. Like, this is mandatory if you want your game to feel exciting to log into and play every day. And that's one of the reasons I've been loving SOD. It's like, I always log in, there's a full city, and it's great, you know?
Therefore, their time spent holds value, and so they are therefore motivated to devote more to it. However, the opposite is also true. If the main cities are barren and the players level in empty zones with nothing but NPCs to keep them company, it gives them the impression that the game is dead or dying, the world doesn't feel alive, and if no one else is playing it, why are they? This is what is known as the bandwagon effect.
Right,
The more people on a bandwagon, the more a person will want to join. And if there is no one, there must be no reason to join. In fact, this phenomenon is partly why, when the game had started losing subscribers, instead of just shutting down servers, Blizzard introduced cross-realm zoning where players could see others from other servers. This would accomplish two things. Although the game was indeed steadily losing subscribers, it would retain or even reinvigorate the illusion that it was thriving, not dying, as well as avoiding the poor optics of headlines reading, World of Warcraft shuts down X amount of servers among decline in subscribers. And so, regardless of what benefits the garrison system brought to the game, it wouldn't be enough to overcome this one devastating downside. They made the game seem dead. And this once massively multiplayer game was clearly not as massive as it once was, where you'd once find a player loitering in the main city, leveling their crafting profession.
I mean, how fun is it, bro, when you log in and you see this? Like, come on, right? It's just fun. It's just a good time when you log in and see this. And, you know, it is the bandwagon effect to some degree, but it's also the idea that when you're playing on in an MMO, it actually is more fun when there's more people online. It's not that it's just an illusion. If you're playing an MMO with no one else playing, it's actually less fun, because the entire basis of the game is that you hit some type of critical mass where you can have this experience with other people and have that connection, and you do a raid, or you do a quest line, and you build friendships and you do things together, right? So it's not that it's like, I agree with Mad Season that it's a bandwagon effect concept, but it goes beyond that. It's actually more fun to play a game when everyone else is playing, and it's actually less fun to play a game when less people are playing. Like, when you can go up to someone and just talk and interact with them, that is actually a better experience. It doesn't just make you think it's a better experience. It is, right?
Or selling enchants. They were now doing so in the comfort of their garrison. And where you'd once find a player trekking the world and collecting ore veins, they were now doing so within the confines of their garrison. And people were beginning to liken the expansion to a queue simulator, waiting for a dungeon or raid to pop while you stood semi-AFK in your garrison with your NPCs to keep you company. They were strong. They were far too strong, and players had little reason to leave them, as this was...
So we just had this discussion about player housing. Player housing is scary. What's the word? I'm hesitantly optimistic, cautiously optimistic with player housing. And my big thing is they can't have too much utility. Just like Mad Season said, if they're too strong, players never want to leave. The problem with the garrisons was that you could make your gold in the garrisons. Press 1 in the chat if you made millions of gold in Warlords of Draenor just doing your table missions every day. I know I did, right? Never left, just made millions of gold doing nothing. I still today have that stockpile of gold on my retail account, because it's crazy. Anyway, you have an auction house, you have the ability to make gold, you can do you never had to leave. Like that can't happen with player housing. If it does, then it'll be the same issue, right?
Even before the time of world quests, which were later introduced specifically to get players out into the world to give it life, to solve a problem that the Warlords of Draenor started. And beyond that, this now fractured community, the lifeblood of the game, got split even further due to other areas where the expansion fell short, such as its raiding. The raids themselves are often praised today. What they lacked was simply quantity. The expansion would hold a record low 3 raid tiers. Player housing had been something that was discussed quite frequently between the players and developers prior to the launch of garrisons, and one of the reasons why the developers were resistant was that the amount of time needed to implement such a system would mean abandoning raid tiers, as evidenced with a pre-release screenshot of a map that showed a planned raid in one of the game's zones, Talador, which never made it into the game. It would seem that it was indeed the case. Just another of one of the many missing features of the expansion. This was also referenced with a grave site within the player's garrison that held an epitaph which read, Ray D tier. So all of this, combined with a very slow rollout of patches, some of the slowest in the game's history, the Warlords of Draenor didn't just stumble, it hemorrhaged. After the record-breaking subscriber spike, the drop-off was brutal. Players bailed in droves, calling it an unfinished mess, that it felt dead, and more servers were quietly merged via their cross-realm zoning system in a desperate bid to breathe life back into it, but subscriptions still cratered to 5.5 million, the lowest since the game's initial climb in vanilla World of Warcraft. They would stop reporting subscription numbers shortly thereafter, claiming that there were more effective metrics to gauge success, and maybe they were right, because where they had lost players, they had absolutely raked in cash, primarily from expansion sales off of the back of hype, and also the paid level boost, and soon enough, the WoW token, where players could pay real money for gold.
He's gonna say, told you so, by the way.
It was a gold mine, and record profits rolled in during record low subscriptions. The Cash Shop, which was a whisper back in 2008 when it was first introduced, had now grown into a roar, as at this point, you could not only buy levels, you could buy gold. With gold, you could buy power, raid carries, gear, PvP rank, you name it. The list of what you couldn't buy shrank quite quickly, and all within the terms of service. What they had once policed and got players banned for was now their business model, and consequently, the whispers of pay to win weren't whispers anymore. They were shouts. Real money had tipped the scales, widening the gaps between players in ways that the game's old guard could barely stomach. Subscriptions weren't public anymore, but you didn't really need numbers to feel the vibe. The Warlords of Draenor left a scar. It soared out of the gate, and then tanked harder than anyone could have predicted.
I think Mad Season said that really well. It's the problem with gold, with being able to buy gold and then being able to buy character power, like we talked about earlier in the video, and that's where I think the line should be drawn. I saw a couple people in the chat disagree, but I think the point that really needs to be driven home is you're playing an online video game, and in that world, your real life financial status shouldn't have any carryover or effect to the online video game. So if you're really wealthy in real life and you can buy as much gold as you want and then buy all the carries and boost, it shouldn't be able to affect your in-game status. Like everyone should be at an equal playing field within Azeroth, right? If you're low income, if you're medium income or high income, whatever it is, you should be able to log in and have somewhat of an equal playing field against the other players in the game. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's like you can't have a system where people can pass other people by their real life financial status. I think that is bad for an online world. Yeah, I'll stand by that.
Financially, it was a juggernaut, but for the soul of World of Warcraft, a reckoning. Beyond this, the expansion suffered more minor controversies, such as the announcement of no flying mounts being available throughout the entirety of the expansion. This was done, as explained by the developers, to make the world seem massive once again. At this point, although flying mounts were convenient for travel, a downside was that being able to speed across the world made it seem unimposing and small, and the grand nature of the landscape faded, a problem that many claim to have started since the release of the Burning Crusade expansion in 2007, where flying mounts were first introduced. While this certainly has merit, at this point, over the course of several years, Blizzard had cultivated an audience who preferred flying and who saw any restrictions on it as an arbitrary handicap to slow them down and to lengthen the experience. To them, the inconvenience wasn't worth the feeling of a large world, and so they pushed back hard, threatening to join the many others who have already quit. It wouldn't be long until Blizzard caved, and they met the player base halfway by adding the ability to unlock flying in Draenor. And later, it was found that there was to be a massive transit system spanning across the continent that connected to the Grimworld Depot, but it was never made, incrementing once more the number of abandoned features of a rushed expansion. And it's a shame, because there was a lot that the expansion did well. The zones themselves, along with the questing, many claim today were quite immersive and well done. The raids that were released were memorable and unique. It did quite well with the bones of what players wanted from an expansion, but that was the issue. It was just bones. And so, the Warlords of Draenor was a paradox of profit and pain. It marked a time where players realized that Blizzard Entertainment were just words on a building. They were reminded that game development teams are consisted of people. People who quit, people who are fired, die, or are otherwise replaced by those who don't share the same vision of their predecessors. They learned that the games that they play are extensions of their developers, and while the Burning Crusade oozed the feeling of a passion project made by a bunch of nerds who play D&D in a dark and dusty basement, and made during a time where the game and its community were thriving, the Warlords of Draenor felt disconnected and hollow, and was delivered during a record-low decline with the promise of nostalgic better days dangled in front of it. And that is why many people consider today the Warlords of Draenor expansion to be bad. It was a combination of an unforeseen level of hype, skyrocketing it into the heavens, followed by a very hard crash aided by a poor launch, numerous abandoned features, the most major of which harmed the game, and the realization that the past was indeed in the past.
It's so interesting seeing all these perspectives, because for me, I've been playing WoW since 2004 to now, and I quit. I've quit just like basically two times. So the first I was in high school, and it was during Wrath, and I loved the game, but I was in high school, so I was like, oh, let me quit the game and actually try to meet friends and like go outside and like, party or whatever, like try to like just make it like some type of social life. And I quickly realized that it wasn't for me, and I like playing World of Warcraft, so I started playing again. That was the first time I quit, and so that was really nothing to do with the game. It was just I wanted to go outside for a little bit. And then the second time I quit was Warlords of Draenor, and it wasn't really just one time. I actually quit like 3 or 4 times in this expansion, and it was really just because for me I was just a PvPer, and the PvP really was just that unfulfilling to me. Like, I was a mage, and they took away deep freeze essentially. Like, deep freeze broke on damage, so you could deep freeze, but you couldn't actually kill anyone in a deep freeze. You could deep freeze as it's kind of like a Viper Sting, right? Like you could use it as a CC, but you can't actually like it would break on damage. And then they got id of your counterspell using like a silence. So they got rid of all your like your ways to like like burst someone, and so it resulted in a type of gameplay that you would just kind of sit around and do a bunch of nothing and rely on your teammates. And mages were really good in Warlords. It's not like they were bad. They were great in Warlords. In fact, I think, no, they didn't win BlizzCon that year. I don't think. I thought they might have won BlizzCon, but I don't think they did. But they were still really, really good. Because people convolute the idea of mages removing stuff, Xaryu being mad, mages were bad, lol, mages deserve to be bad. And it's like, none of that's true, right? It's like, mages can be very good and not be very fun. These things are not mutually exclusive, right? So I just wanted to make that clear. They were very strong, but not very fun. And so I quit the game. I came back, quit the game again, came back, quit the game again, and then came back, and then finally Legion came out. And I thought Legion was a lot better. So that's where I was at.
Thanks for watching my video. This is possibly the start of a new series where we go into these expansions and maybe even other MMOs and games, and similarly analyze and remark why people consider them to be bad or good. I want to cover the successes as well, and Blizzard has a lot, I'm sure you'll agree. As critical as this was, I hope it came off as constructive. I'd rather people look at it as more of an analysis on how things can go wrong within the genre and learn from it, rather than just use it as a punching bag. If you personally enjoyed Warlords of Draenor, there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not trying to take away from that or anything. And if you disagree with anything that I've said in this video, let me know and make your case. I'd like to see what you have to say. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you liked it, because I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
GG's, man. Another great Mad Season upload there, man. There we go. Why Warlords was bad. And I do appreciate how Mad Season made this video. It wasn't overly negative. It was more just like analytical, which is how Mad Season is, which is great. So yeah, another good upload, man. Another good